podcasting is weird, and I mean, let me know if you feel this too, being a guest, but like it's just us talking, but just knowing that like this is being recorded and like people will see this and listen to us. I think subconsciously, like we still act a little bit different. So it's like constantly I'm trying
Totally.
to get out of that and back into myself and essentially pretend like this just isn't being recorded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Welcome to the Trip Sitting Podcast, where we explore what it means to be human. This week's human that we have on the podcast, besides myself, is an artist that goes by the name of Stella, and I might be getting this last name wrong, but I believe it is Strzyzowska. And regardless of whether or not I completely butchered that or not, her art is fucking amazing. There's really no other way to put it. It's trippy, it's psychedelic, it's got so much just like soul to it, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I fell in love with her when I met her at Psychedelic Science earlier this year and knew that I had to have her on the podcast. So this was an amazing episode, and I hope you guys all enjoy it. And before we get into it, make sure that you are following and subscribe to the Trip Sitting Podcast on YouTube or whatever podcast streaming platform that you are listening to this podcast on. And make sure that you are also following Trip Sitting on Instagram and TikTok. Our handle is at tripsitting.blog. That is all the promos that I have for you before we get started. So I hope you enjoy this episode. So I wanted to start and ask you, how do you prepare before you start painting every day? What does that preparation look like before you go into, putting the brush onto the canvas?
So I wake up, usually have my phone on airplane mode, meditate like 30 minutes. And then I started probably like 8 years ago doing a little ritual where I go over. I get into like some sort of vibratory, or what they call the gnosis state, which is like I started doing it after yoga and exercise early on, and eventually the meditation came. So then I kind of state a few things like overall intentions, and I go through each like chakra space and I say intentions that correlate with that specific, the qualities of each chakra. Mm-hmm. And when I get to here, I'm receiving visions that are my greatest service in this lifetime, that nourish imagination and creativity, feed hungry souls. It kind of has like a base thing, but each day I kind of flow and add new things. And so ultimately what I do is I do this little ritual where I'm opening myself up to be this conduit for whatever it is that I was here to do at the maximum potential. Mm-hmm. So I do that, pull a couple tarot cards, and then I'll do like a workout or a yoga class. Not always in the same order, but like a really strong day, I would do that. And then after my workout, eat something really great. Have like, lately I've been drinking cacao instead of yerba mate. Mm-hmm. So do one of those. And then I have like all my preparation done. And then I just enter the studio and usually do like 2 sessions, like one fat session, eat dinner, and then night session.
Nice.
So yeah.
Are you like a night owl? Like, are you someone who like at night, that's when like you kind of really feel yourself coming alive?
Yeah, I'm like always trying to wake up earlier, and it's a hard thing for me. I'm like always like, especially when I'm finishing a painting, I'm getting better more and more as I'm gaining more structure. But like, going back to college days, I would always stay up all night painting, and I still tend to do that sometimes. But lately, I've been getting a little bit better not staying up till like 4 or 5 a.m. painting anymore.
Yeah.
Trying not to.
Yeah. Do you, so is painting like, do you do this full time now, or like do you have any other jobs?
No, this is full time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
How often do you get a chance to like, just kind of go in the studio and like fuck around now and like not be painting something to eventually like show the world and sell and make a
Yeah.
living? Like, do you get the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, especially like on like a Friday night or like a Saturday, like, when I'm kind of like in between pieces, I'll find some time, like a day where it's kind of just chill. I'm not like working, but I tend to be a little uptight with my technical approach.
Hmm.
And I'm working on trying to break free. I actually have a piece I did a few days ago, and it was like totally something different, just like
Yeah.
watercolor madness. And I did another piece in April, and it was May, and some abstract stuff. So I'm trying to break free, but and like sketches are a big one where a
Yeah.
lot of that comes through. But
Hmm.
there is a lot of pressure to keep going because I'm at this entrepreneurial early phase. My husband is an entrepreneur as well, so it's a push and pull. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's it's hard to find the time to be more exploratory, and I'm trying to find like more ways, more mediums to be expressive through,
Hmm.
not just acrylic, oil, and watercolor paintings.
Yeah. When you first started painting, was that like the medium that you started with, or did it take a few iterations to even find that?
Yeah, well, I was like in fourth grade and I was like, Mom, I need an acrylic set. I was
Hmm.
like really like focused on that. And then I was in an art magnet program in middle school.
Hmm.
So I started learning how to like mix color and paint like traditional painting and like drawing charcoal and different stuff like that. So that happened. Then I went to college and I was a focus in drawing and painting, but then I started taking psychedelics and got really interested in cartoons.
Uh-huh.
And I took like animation course and digital art. So I was really like into like Adult Swim, kind of like the trippy. Uh,
Hmm.
it started with Super Jail. I don't know if you've seen Super
No,
Jail.
I haven't. I just started watching Adventure Time, which
It's
I never got into when I was a kid, and like now I'm super into it and I love it.
yeah, yeah. Adventure Time. I used to watch like Adult Swim was like my religion. Like it
Uh-huh.
was like part of this transitory phase from I was like a crazy drunk
Hmm.
and really destructive lifestyle. And then I started eating psychedelics and I watched Super Jail like in an acid trip. And I was like, and it was like robot chicken as well.
Oh
And
man.
some dark, crazy stuff that really like sparked. I always had like a dark sense of humor coming from such a chaotic life.
Hmm.
So that kind of like got me going. And then like just like watching cartoons was a way to be laughing and like
Yeah.
get out of my depressive kind of situation.
Hmm.
Um, so I was like,
You started
apply.
taking ADD medication too, and you were in like the fourth grade, right?
Yeah, same year that I was like, I'm gonna be a painter.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah, it was like a crazy time. I was like, also my last name changed during that time, and I was adopted by my stepfather. So it was kind of like a lot of big things happening at that year.
Hmm.
And I was kind of escaping and creating like stories in my mind all day, every day. And
Yeah.
I probably
I
should have just
was
been
I
at a
was
different school.
I was a big daydreamer. I was always really good in school as the thing, but like I also was a really big daydreamer. And like, it's not really until recently that I realized like, oh, like I just couldn't handle sitting with myself and like my actual thoughts. So like that's I think what we do as kids. Like we find a way to escape into these alternate fantasy realities that don't
Yeah.
exist, and thinking of ourselves in this like grand future, hoping to just be in a different place than we currently are.
Yeah. And I just felt like I was just a divergent kid in
Mm-hmm.
a system that wasn't really like, I was always kind of a rebel or an anti-establishment kind of kid, you know. It was like it's out of the box. So
Yeah.
maybe if I was at a interesting, like the Waldorf schools, I don't know if you've heard of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have probably suited me better. But
Yeah. I mean, the public school system, even the private school system, when you're growing up, it's not meant for to teach us how to be creative and like teach us how to like find ourselves. It's teaching us like very basic skills and just weeding us through like a system. Uh,
yep.
and that does work for some, but I'd say it probably fails most.
Yeah, yeah. And like just the whole infrastructure of the system, you know, like teachers aren't getting paid enough to be able to expend that much energy. And it's just,
Yeah.
I did a little bit of teaching on my journey of becoming a full time artist. And yeah, it was a lot. Like,
Hmm.
much respect to all the teachers, really.
Yeah. Shout out teachers.
Yeah.
I agree. My mom tried to be a teacher for a couple years. Um, and after she got like her teaching credentials, she was teaching I think second grade for 1 or 2 years, and then right after that, just mass pink slips and layoffs in the public school system in California.
Oh,
And she
damn.
didn't, yeah, and she didn't have tenure at that point, so nothing that she could do, and no way for her to really get another job at that point. So she unfortunately had to just give that up.
Damn. Yeah.
But she didn't get paid much either. I remember her buying school supplies for her
Hmm.
classroom, and like just I mean going the extra mile, putting in all the extra effort, and it still didn't matter at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely was buying school supplies as well for my class.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you said that sometimes you're like between pieces, like how do you decide like this is a piece I'm going to pursue? Like where did those ideas come from?
It's just like it's just a happening. It's not like a mental calculation. It's like just like a in a snap. Okay, that's what's gonna happen. Like I'll give you an example with the recent Kali painting. Was like,
Yeah, she's beautiful.
thank you. It was kind of just like a day where the entrepreneurial stress was rising, and I was realizing I need to paint faster. I need to paint more. Like I need to do something. And then I just saw a flash in my mind of this like like crawling on the ground, and I was like, sketch a little something, because if you just do that right away, you lock in that vision, that flow. So that happened. Then, like a couple weeks later, took some reference photos, and then a couple weeks later, I saw like listened to a couple songs that inspired me, and like I was just like possessed. I was like, all right, it's happening today. And
Hmm.
it's kind of like it starts as a root, and I feel like my daily ritual is like the constant stream of devotion and connection, uh and it all just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's like the one of Trump smoking DMT and doing ayahuasca. That was like such a specific vision in a
Hmm.
DMT trip that even still after it happened, like we laughed about it for a few months.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh wait, I still remember this. Like maybe I should, draw
Hmm.
it.
That was from a DMT trip that you had that vision.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, how do you come out and like integrate that? Like, how do you're sitting around and you're like, yeah, I just saw Trump doing DMT and just wondering what would happen.
Like literally as I start telling my husband, he's like coming out of his trip, and he's just looking at me, and we're just cracking up, like cracking up. And it was also, I was on psilocybin at the same time. And Yeah, I mean, most of the time you're just be seeing like alien language or like things that you can't believe you forgot that are ever changing. Like, and this one was just like, it's like I hit the DMT slot machine and I just got a weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like so bizarre that it was like this dude wearing this like hippie shirt, and you never find images of Donald Trump wearing like anything but tennis clothes and business suits online. So it was just like bizarre that it was mashed together, smoking DMT, leading his bros through the jungle to go do ayahuasca.
Yeah.
They get there, they're doing the ayahuasca, and he's like, more, bigger doses, like, and they're purging, purging, and the earth is healing. And she begins to talk to me, and she's like, don't worry, there's enough medicine here to heal our most toxic parts. And like, there was a deep knowing that it would happen.
Yeah.
And then my organs began to be lined with gold, and there's a Alex Gray angel praying over me, witnessing the whole thing. And I start coming out of it like, what the fuck was that? And yeah, I mean, I've always been watching a lot of cartoons and I've had a really wacky imagination. Simultaneously, I had been working in the restaurant and was teaching. And I had like 4,000 followers. And I had this just idea that I was still doing my ritual practice then, that when I get here, I'm receiving visions that are going viral, that are uplifting consciousness in ways unimaginable. So I was saying that daily. And I was really focused. Like, I was like, if I could just like manifest a vision that goes viral, maybe some people would know who I am, and then I could do this full time. So then I had that vision. We laughed about it for a while. I started like, even once I realized I was going to start working on it, maybe it was like 3 months later, I was like photoshopping his head on like some hippie clothing body. And I was working at this crazy school. It was a catastrophe situation. One of the kids like saw me like photoshopping. The kid's like, what are you doing? I'm like, clothing my, like, all right, I'll stop working on this here. I was like substituting at the time. So yeah, I just started putting it together. And simultaneously, I guess I had the vision in like September, October of 2017. And then in February, a friend of mine passed away. And it was just so bizarre because he was the third of three brothers to pass away from unrelated automobile accidents.
No shit.
Yeah, and it was so bizarre that I went and I took mushrooms one day, and I was meditating at the beach. It's a story. Sorry, it keeps going, but so I'm meditating.
This is the point of the podcast. Remember?
Cool. So I'm meditating at the beach on the mushrooms, and all of a sudden, a black sleeping serpent awoke at the base of my spine, and I didn't know it was there. And it starts to come up and coil around, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I've like read about Kundalini awakenings and this whole snake thing. That's where that painting came into play. Then 2 days later, they wanted me to speak at the funeral. So the only practical thing I thought was to eat a bunch of mushrooms the night before. And in my mushroom trip, an inner voice spoke and was like, yo, you could die any day. Like, you need to become a full-time artist, and you need to sign up for Alex and Allison Gray's workshop. And I was like, okay. So I applied. I got in that summer. I get there. I had started the drawing, and I did the whole thing. I showed Alex the drawing. He was cracking up.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like a weird series of events. And then I went home and like busted ass. I was working at the restaurant at the same time, like paint a little bit, run to a shift, come home, paint a little bit, you know. And I guess in that October, so it was like 1 year from the vision, I went back to Cosm and I shared the painting for the first time in public. And within 6 months, my following doubled. And then within a year and a half, I became a full-time artist.
Damn.
So it was really freaky.
That's fucking awesome. So that was the big like transformative painting, at least like in your life.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It really, I always tell people, I don't know the answer to the world's problems. I think it's more of like a doorway for discussion, because like there's been a lot of people like concerned about narcissists taking psychedelics and what happens after that.
Becoming more of a narcissist.
Yeah. And, I think we've probably seen some of that even in the community. But that would be like maybe more of the ultimate situation. So that, also a lot of people are like, not a lot of people, but there's been people like, you can't just take all the ayahuasca, like you can't just harvest all the ayahuasca. I'm like, dude, there's a thing called LSD, there's psilocybin mushrooms, like there's DMT, like there's a lot of ways that
I can promise you there's more than enough mushrooms to go around on this earth. That is easy as fuck to grow.
Totally. Yeah. And I haven't done ayahuasca. I've been a LSD, psilocybin, and DMT person for like 13 years or so.
What was the first psychedelic that you ever did?
Mushrooms. Yeah.
And was that in college?
No, I did mushrooms in high school, and I was like, had to do them alone. Like, I don't know. I just had this like, I was always kind of like just really interested to see what would happen. So it was psilocybin, then LSD, then DMT. And then it was just I guess MDMA was after the mushrooms, in between the LSD. And that was kind of a big doorway. MDMA was like whole life change. And same thing happened once LSD came in, and DMT.
And then once again, after DMT came in.
Yeah. And I really had always done DMT like with other psychedelics. Then I started like doing more intentional ceremony just with the DMT, but I still think it jives really well with psilocybin, because psilocybin is 4-HO, DMT. They have like a nice connection, and you definitely want to be safe and make sure you're not too messed up or like in weird positions. You want to be very centered and like kind of coherent.
Yeah.
But yeah, started off more reckless because I was such, taking the ADD medication for so long. Like by the time I was in high school, I knew that I like to get high on Vyvanse and Adderall. And I digged it. It got my creative juices flowing, but then eventually it was like,
you needed it.
It was like, yeah, taking over my life.
So when did you like make the decision to stop? Because you literally like made the decision to just like, I'm not going to take this anymore, right?
Yeah, that's a whole nother story too. This was 2014. I used to do like benders where I would stay up for like 2 days and paint, smoke a lot of weed, and like just do my art and get all cracked out. And so I was like on a 2-day bender, went to a festival. I get there and start drinking, like partying. 2 a.m, just start vomiting. I vomited for like till the next day, or at like 2 or 3 p.m. Like I was ready to go to the emergency room. Somebody left the festival and went and got Emitrol, which was some medication that helped me to stop vomiting. And I took a nap. And then after the nap, I woke up. I was like, well, I almost just died, so let's eat some LSD and go see the Allman Brothers, right?
as one does.
Yeah, I was like, I'm already here, dude. Like, I almost just died. If I'm gonna
I almost just died, but I didn't. So let's fucking go out with a bang, just in case.
Yeah. So it took a couple hits when saw the Allman Brothers sobbing inner voice spoke, was like, yo, like that shit's killing you. Like you're never taking it again.
Mm-hmm.
So the LSD really did like save my life in that sense that time. So I went home and I stopped taking it. I was like, what the fuck am I going to do with myself? I'm like a lazy bum. Like I have no sense of direction, sense of willpower. And a friend gave me some mushrooms out of nowhere. So I was just had a few mushroom trips.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, yo, just start doing yoga as your Vyvanse. Like the same way you would wake up and take that pill, wake up and do a class. So started with YouTube classes, and I started doing Kundalini yoga early on because it was like the one thing that kind of got me high. Mm-hmm. The breathing and the movement and the mantra, it would like get me into like a visceral vibratory kind of situation. And that's when I started like doing the intentional ritual thing. And I was like, when I would come out like in that post Shavasana state, I would start doing that. And then I guess like within a year, maybe less, 6 to 8 months, I started with Ali Kamenova, I'm still training with her, she's like a fusion of all sorts, yoga, mobility, high intensity interval training, all that, strength training. Because I just started realizing I wanted to get strong.
Yeah.
And so that started after. And and then I took Vyvanse one more time in school. And I was just like, yeah, this stuff is dangerous for me. Like, it's like, I think what people don't realize is that it's very euphoric, and it's like a designer drug, and it's a little like meth, like it's good stuff, They probably shouldn't be giving kids that.
Probably shouldn't be giving it to fourth graders.
Yeah. So that was that whole story. It was great though, because I've never stopped doing I exercise like minimum 4 times a week usually. Some weeks, if I'm traveling, stuff like that. But like it's been something that has been very constant and has given that's been the infrastructure of discipline that then I started doing the meditation. And like that discipline, I kind of just have that now.
Yeah. Has weed and psychedelics sort of always been a part of you since that started, or have you gone through phases where you'll kind of stop those for a little bit and then come back to it once it's calling you and things like that?
Well, no.
Before you answer that question, I just want to tell this story really quick that you
please.
Probably don't remember, but when I met you at Psychedelic Science, I was volunteering for MAPS, just interviewing attendees and speakers. And everybody. And so you were I think live painting outside of the exhibition hall, and we asked, hey, would you mind doing this interview? And the first thing you just said was, I don't know how good this is going to sound. I just took a huge dab right before this. You think that's going to be fine? I was like, that's perfect. Absolutely.
Yeah. Weed has been such a big part. Especially once I got to Colorado. I had just gotten a puff coat, so I was enjoying myself out there. Recently, I have been actually didn't smoke weed yesterday or today. And like lately I've been doing like during the weekdays, most of the weekdays, trying not to smoke weed.
The weekends start on Thursday, so.
So yeah, like I guess up until a month ago, I hadn't taken one day off of weed in like 7 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I started to realize, okay, I have an issue there. And weed was always like my safe place because I was a crazy alcoholic and whatever else, so like substances and alcohol abuse were such a problem that I always felt like weed was a good, safe place for me. But what I've learned in time is that I've kind of saturated myself in it to the point where I'm not able to deal with my emotions, or I'm using it as a way to deal with my emotions.
Yeah.
So I've been working on using it more intentionally and not all the time, like not waking up or right before I go to the post office, or all these little things that I'm always like smoking too much weed. So that's been a big shift lately, and it's pretty great. I'm chilling, and I still enjoy it, and we'll see where it goes. And I'm open-minded to always changing and not getting stuck. But yeah, psychedelics there's probably been, few months here and there throughout my use where, I just time happens and things happen and not tripping, but it's been a pretty constant thing for me. It was something that really helped get my life together and has been a constant stream of inspiration and healing. And, some people don't need as much healing as others. So for me, I felt like some people are just born to trip.
Oh man, I gotta put that on a fucking shirt or something.
Yeah, like some people got a lot of trips in them, and like
I know a lot of people with a lot of trips though, and like they're no better off than when they started though.
That's true.
Thing. Like it's I don't know the difference between like what it is about people that makes some people when they start tripping realizing like, damn, there's something here, and like I'm gonna start fixing these things that I want to fix and like be a better person. Whereas some people that just never happens, and like I don't know what it is that makes it happen for one person and not for another.
Yeah, I guess that's what I also meant by some people are born to trip. Like,
yeah,
some people, like it is like I have to be careful sharing my experience sometimes, because there are people who like it could flip a switch, or it could do something and jumble them up in the wrong way. So it's definitely something to be cautious about. I just happened to have nothing to live for when I started. So like I literally was like going in a really dark path.
It's like, I just need fucking something.
So I would take like high doses of LSD because I was fearless, because I was so used to taking controlled substances or whatever, alcohol shots. Like I was like, the more the better. So then
I did too. I mean, I used to like if when I took LSD and like I didn't feel like I got smacked in the fucking face, I was like, I didn't take enough.
Yep. Yeah. That was, and then next thing I know, I'm like breathing away all the tension in my being and meeting God. And I'm like understanding what meditation is. And I'm like, dude, like, I didn't exactly know this was gonna turn into, but I always had like a spiritual, like creative side to me. So I feel like some people maybe have like a little bit more of like a ability to surf in the astral realm than others. Some people get really freaked out. And I think I was just always like,
I want to know. I want to know more.
And also, I think not getting so caught up in exactly what you think happened and being more like, who knows, because half the time you're sure of what happened. And then like, that's what's been so great about tripping with my husband for so long, is like, I'll be sure of something that happened. And then he's like, dude, that's not the experience I had. I was like, dude, we were mind reading about it. Like we totally had that experience. And he's like,
we were in it together. And he's like, I was somewhere completely different.
Yeah. It's like when you're like getting paranoid or thinking a certain thought and you look over at the person tripping with you and they're like, and then you're like, oh my God, but they're like thinking about something completely different. And I think sometimes I notice people really try to like hold on and make sense of what has happened in their experience. And I'm like, dude, you just got to let it go. Cause like, who knows?
Damned if I know, but that was crazy.
Yeah. And being a little bit skeptical helps
Yeah.
not get caught up, because that's where I think people get a little crazy.
Well, yeah, it's like, people then want to like attach to the trip. Like, the whole intentional use of psychedelics for me is like taught me the importance of like detaching myself from just about everything around me. And so it's
Yeah,
like, you can't then attach to the trips and like attach so hard to like this one specific little detail that happened during it. It's like the whole point is like, doesn't matter.
exactly. Yeah. And then like people don't go to sleep because they're trying to like dissect what happened. And then that's when the spiral of weeks after turns into, yo, what happened to them? Like, like lack of sleep turns into mania, turns into kind of like, so I think just some people have more of an ability to be abstract and skeptical and
Yeah.
aloof, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And other people are like a little bit more uptight and trying to figure it out. And I'm just like, we'll find out next time.
Hey, yeah, I'm
Maybe.
just kind of out here.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, going back to the animation thing was, I was like really obsessed with animation. I was like applying for an Adult Swim internship that I didn't get. And simultaneously, I realized that I had been painting for so long that I was like, I'm going to have to spend a lot of years learning how to be an animator to be as good as I am a painter. Mm-hmm. So maybe one day I'll get back to that. Maybe the AI infrastructure will be a lot better for me to not have to spend so many years. I don't know. It's sad for the animators, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what do you think about like AI paintings? Like, I'm sure you've seen those, and like, there's some incredible artwork that's being created by AI.
Yeah, I mean, I know people get really upset, and maybe my time will come. I think that people will always appreciate real life work, unless we all just become cyborgs and it doesn't matter anyways, Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think we'll see. But mm-hmm. So far, I really, with at least the people that connect with my work, like they really appreciate. It's kind of like acoustic guitar. Like Billy Strings is popping right now. Like everybody like is like on the Billy Strings train, and mm-hmm. I just don't see that like ending because of AI, and I feel like
because there's soul that you can put into it, like again, like there's soul that's inside your paintings. Like you can feel that when you look at it. Again, the same way you can hear it in Billy String's voice, like when he's singing those songs. It's, that's a part that AI will just never be able to do is have that soul, because us humans have a soul.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we can only use AI. This is maybe a positive perspective, but use it to create more infrastructure for more soul to come out, just as a tool. But we'll find out.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those tools that like it's new and we don't fully know how to use it yet. And I don't know what the proper way to use it is. Again, kind of like you said at the beginning, like I don't have all the answers to the world's problems. Like I really don't. Nor do I think it's my job to try to figure it out and like fix them and sit here. But like it's just a tool. We don't know how to use it, and I'll leave it at that. And then I'll let somebody else figure out how to use it, and then report back.
All we can do is just try to be our greatest service at the highest potential. And I don't usually know what I'm going to paint. Like I have no idea what's coming next. I have a couple paintings I'm working on, but like,
how long did Kali take?
That was a quick one. That was had the little spark of vision in August, and then finished last week.
Oh shit! Okay, yeah, that was a quick one.
Yeah, so it was like 2 months process.
Nice.
And I didn't even know she was Kali. It was like a little like inspiration spark doodle, and then reference photos, and then like like watch some music videos and listen to different music. And I don't know, one day I was just like possessed and I started drawing, or I guess I started painting her with some light acrylic. And then the tongue came, and then once the tongue came, I was like, ah. And then people started commenting, "Oh my God, Kali!" And I was like, "Yeah, I think that's who she is." You know, it wasn't like a conscious, "I'm going to do this." It was just kind of like just fell together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what else?
What else? You know, that's the thing. You know, we could theoretically just end it here.
Oh
I
yeah.
necessarily want to do that too. I did want to ask you actually, how did you and your husband meet? How long have you guys been together?
That's another story.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was 2013. I
Mm-hmm.
was working at a pizza restaurant. That's actually where I met my meditation teacher. We both worked at a pizza restaurant together. And just got picked up by some random dudes after work. And they were like, they knew I was the chick that did psychedelics. And they were like, yo, come to this party and take some acid with us. So I went to the ATM, got some money, get to the party, take some of my dose, pass out chicken wings. I didn't even know anybody at the party.
Uh-huh.
So this is like the cusp of when I started to. It was a long transitory phase. I had some deep ingrained dark habits. He saw me at the party, take my psychedelic, and he started like chasing me around the party, asking me to smoke DMT with him, and I was like creeped out. I was like, yo. I was like, get that guy away from me, dude. And then later on, they're like, we want to go smoke DMT. It was my first time smoking DMT. And I was like, all right. You know, I was tripping by that point. I was like, let's do it.
Yeah, like
and
now it's a good idea.
Yeah, and then I ended up at his house. I was like, oh, this crazy guy from the party. So then next thing I know, we're breaking through like 2 tokes from a bowl. And I'm like, he's like, you want another one? And I'm like, completely everything is like, I'm like, barely see him anymore. I'm like, next thing I know is like the most important person in my life. And I'm like coming out of the trip, like, is this what it does to you? Like, what the fuck? And then, I guess a few months later, like I still didn't think anything of it. I was just like, all right, see you later. And then went to a festival, Bear Creek. And then we started hooking up and dating. And ever since then, it's been 10 years this year.
Wow.
Yeah. So it became this like psychonaut partnership. we got blessed. It was good.
That's what we all hope for one day.
Yeah, it's not easy though. It's definitely like, especially when you're young, like, and you don't have your shit together already. You have to go through like years. We were 20 when we met. I'm 31. He's 30. Mm-hmm. And just like the early years, we both came from a lot of addiction, alcoholic stuff, lifestyle. Trauma. Yeah. So, having those early years of trauma together and inducing more trauma and
trauma bonding.
Then having to heal from that in time. But within like a year, or maybe not a year, like I had like a DMT trip within like 7 months of us dating, where I saw us in front of me growing old, and we looked like the Shulgin painting of Alex Gray, and there was like angels praying over us, and it was just like that. Like that was a moment where I thought, I think we might grow old together. And then and then
oh shit,
I was like, I think that, and like he's vomiting while this is happening. I don't know, it was a crazy time. But yeah, then but throughout I had to be very like, he taught me a lot about skepticism. He was really more of a skeptic, and I was like a super believer. So then like I started kind of like being like, who knows? Like we could die any day. 1, 2, like this could not be it. We have to be open-minded. We can't be attached to that. So I would just constantly just be like in an open state, and our bond has grown, and it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, that's how he got you. He's like, just stay open to us. This is it. You can't be sure.
Yeah. And like the more that I would just work on myself and not be too attached to an outcome or a milestone or a status, you know?
Or to even like who you were in that moment.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We had to be radically honest. We even had like as our Saturn return started, we were like having a moment where we're like in a mushroom trip, like, is this it? Like,
are we sure?
Should we break up? Like, or should we heal and like keep going? And it was like, okay, let's eat more mushrooms. We can do this. But yeah, it's I think life is not easy either way. I'm just grateful to have had the time to connect with someone so much and really learn about psychedelics and how they affect people differently. And when you have that infrastructure of trust together, you can like really, you know, so like what's it, like a sacred mirror. And yeah, and he's like a very, you know, kind of methodical, kind of like, you know, like he can be all like, you know, we've merged a bit, but he was studying finance. And well, when I met him, he was studying chemistry, and then we're on a psychedelic trip at a festival where he realized he needed to provide for his family and study finance. And then he went into that whole direction. And then now we're at this entrepreneurial phase, and we're still figuring it out.
Yeah. I mean, that's what life is. It's just constantly figuring it out. Like there's no end goal, you know, kind of to what you said. Like you can't be attached to an outcome.
Yeah.
You know, you can only focus on the daily habits like that you've built, and like trust that doing those things and like doing those right things, everything else will just work out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like when the moment you try to define your trip, or you try to grab onto the DMT trip as it's like fading away, and you're trying to like figure God out, and it's like the more you try to like figure it out, the further away from the truth you are. So it's kind of like you just gotta join the ride and the uncertainty of it all and the mystery.
Yeah.
Well,
on that, now I'm going to end it for real this time.
Cool.
And I want to thank you again so much for coming on and sharing your story and just fucking being awesome and like bringing dope shit into this world for people like me to look at and just like get inspired by.
Thank you. That's the whole point.
Yeah. I guess, is there anything before we go officially that you want to promote, let people know about, or anything like that?
I got a really cool painting coming at the beginning of next year, or like spring of next year. That's been a secret painting for a long time. And if you like all my crazy detail, intricate, dense, like, what's it called? Madness. That'll be coming soon. So stay tuned for that.
Hell yeah. I'll be waiting for it.
Yay.
Thank you again, Stella. So much love to you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you, Stella, for coming on and just being your dope self. That's all I got for everybody today. That's all I got for you this week. Stay beautiful. Remember to love everybody. Stay present. Live in the moment. We're all perfect exactly as we are. And I will see you next episode.